Right. So for Chardin, one of the probably the most central feature of Chardin's philosophy is what he calls the omega point. A lot of people kind of get this secondhand through Terence McKenna, though the way he construes it is a little bit different than the way Chardin was. Very typical Terence McKenna fashion. But Chardin is trying to understand the universe in terms of purposiveness. He was a paleontologist, and what he saw within evolution history was a striving towards something. And so the phenomenon of man, in a lot of ways, is him trying to crack that riddle. Where is this going? Why do we see what seems to be a very purposive trajectory in this narrative of cosmogenesis and biogenesis and anthrogenesis, right? And the conclusion that he comes to is that there is a kind of ultimate attractor, which is driving the universe forward. He calls this the omega point, in which there will be a kind of absolute synthesis of all things, not just all things at that particular point in time, but the past as well. Everything somehow will be incorporated into what really within Chardin's philosophy ends up looking like the body of Christ, as it were, because that's really what it amounts to. It is the manifestation within nature of that love, as it were, that drive towards synthesis of difference, right? Chardin's teleology is very symbiotic, very symbiogenetic. It is all about difference and then bringing difference together into ever more complex unity. And so this is very interesting for a number of reasons. First of all, because it seems to completely fly in the face of the kind of standard academic cosmology, which for some reason is still based on the metaphor of the steam engine winding down due to the laws of entropy and us just coming to this inevitable resting state in which all energy and matter break down into this absolutely meaningless equilibrium. Chardin's vision is very different than that. Chardin thinks that what's going to be created is a kind of super cosmic mind, perhaps. Obviously not obviously, but he's a little fuzzy on the details of what this is going to look like. But it's really interesting to me to think about what that could possibly look like if that is indeed the way things are going. Like somehow this super cosmic organism type of thing that somehow incorporates all of the spirit of the universe as a whole. So yeah, definitely big ideas. Before I should also say probably though that I am a little on the fence with Chardin in some ways. I'm not quite so certain that Chardin was right to insinuate that this is all, let's say, driven towards a particular moment of realization in the future where everything finally just clicks into place, which he does seem to talk about it that way sometimes. That could be true. I'm not saying it's not, but I think if we look at Whitehead, we can see something that's a little bit different, where the kind of unification that Chardin is talking about is not necessarily something that's going to happen sometime in the distant future, but in a sense, it's actually continually happening as the world continually generates novelty, and that novelty is continually incorporated into what Whitehead would call the consequent nature of God. You can call it the terminal nature of God if you want to use Longin's terminology. It's the natural world itself, which is kind of like the body of the cosmos. And then, of course, it's possible that you could somehow reconcile those two together. I mean, I don't think it's terribly unfathomable that it could somehow be both, but either way, that's a rough sketch of the territory. Well, if the universe is trying to generate beauty, then that the logos, the omega of the universe, need not have any obligation to accord with our ideas of what is pleasant. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's absolutely primal savagery and brutality in nature. But I mean, have you ever read a good book in which nothing bad happened? You know, like there's got to be an intensity to it for it to really be what it's supposed to be, I think. And that it necessitates freedom, first of all. And then freedom also implies that things aren't necessarily always going to be flowing in lockstep in accordance with that telon, that eidos, logos, omega, whatever you want to call it, that ultimate purpose of the universe. There's going to be deviation there. And moreover, I think it's more than that, though. I think it is that pain is a necessary part of what's being created, because it's not just bliss. If it was all about bliss, then you wouldn't need a universe, right? You know, the Hindus, they say that, you know, Brahman is existence, consciousness, bliss, or something like that. So like your resting state of undifferentiated, pure potentiality, pure consciousness, that's bliss. But, you know, that's boring. You know, yeah, I think there's a it's not just a will to make something pleasant. It's a will to adventure, in a sense, that is driving the universe.